In one of our earlier videos, we have seen how to connect with Azure OpenAI using OpenAI key. But in this video, we will try to connect with Azure OpenAI models using Microsoft Entra ID. Now, connecting with Microsoft Entra comes with several advantages. First, like you do not have to expose your keys. And second, when we are going to connect with Microsoft Entra ID, we are basically going to generate a token, and using that token only, we are going to connect with Azure OpenAI models. The lifespan of these tokens are going to be 1 hour, and after 1 hour, the tokens are going to get refreshed. This is important from security perspective because you do not need to expose your keys to the outer world. Now let's see like how to get started with this. We have to perform several steps in this case. So first thing, we are going to utilize Azure portal to deploy our model, and then actually we are going to create a Microsoft Entra ID, and at the last we will write a code to integrate everything together. So let's go to step number 1. So first thing, actually we have to go to Azure portal. So you can either search for Azure OpenAI. In my case, I do have Azure OpenAI icon over here. So I will just click on this, and we have to deploy our model. So this Azure OpenAI, you can see it comes under Azure AI services, and here I can just click on create Azure OpenAI, and it will ask me to create a group. I don't have any resource group as of now, so I will create a new one, and I will just call it Azure Demo 3006. Reason is going to be ECS. I need to give some name to my Azure OpenAI. I'm just going to go ahead with this name, and the pricing tier is going to be standard. So this particular name is already taken, so I can do this. If you want to check different model and its pricing list, then you can click over here and you can go over the details. I would just go ahead and create next. Then I have to click on this create button, and it will initialize the deployment. I need to wait for this deployment to be completed. As of now, it is in progress. Now you can see the deployment has been completed, so I can click on go to resource, and here we have to go to this model deployment to deploy any kind of model. I'm just going to click on this. You cannot do the deployment over here. If you have to handle the deployment, then it will route us to Azure OpenAI Studio. I'm just going to click on manage deployment, and it's going to route us to Azure OpenAI Studio. We are in the deployment section, and if I have to deploy any model, then I have to click on deploy and deploy base model, and I can pick any of the model from here. What I can do, I can go with GPT-4o mini. So I'll just click on this and hit the confirm button. Here you can pick the deployment type, and there are so many. Your capacity is going to be defined based on your deployment type. As of now, go with very standard one, and here you can see the model version it's going to select, and after that how much quota I have available under this particular deployment. I could see I have maximum quota of 8k, but that is enough for our demo thing. I am just going to switch it off, this enable dynamic quota. I don't need it. I will just go ahead and create deploy. As soon as the deployment is completed, you are going to get this deployment info, and you are also going to get this model name. Along with, you do have the endpoint and the key to access this particular model. Everything has been set up over here. Now we have to go back to our Azure portal. We have to create Microsoft Entra ID. Click on Microsoft Entra ID, and here I'm just going to click on add button, and we have to do the app registration. I'm just going to give some name. So let me go ahead with this one, SP Demo 3006, and I will click on register, and you could see like as soon as this is defined, we are going to get the client ID, tenant ID. We don't have any secrets over here, so I will just click on secret and click on new client secret and add it. It's going to give us a secret ID and value. We have to pick this particular value and save it. So I'm just going to take it from here, and this is important. We have to save the secret value because once you move away from this screen, and next time if you come on to this, you won't be able to see this value. All these values are going to get masked. As soon as it is created, you just take the value and save it so that later on you can utilize this value in your application. So our Microsoft Entra ID is also created. Now the last thing which is required over here is we have to provide access to this particular Microsoft Entra ID to our model. So for that, we are going to go to our Azure OpenAI service. I'm just going to click on this, and then you could see over here IAM. So I'm just going to click on IAM. Then we have to utilize this grant access to this resource. I'm just going to click on add role assignment because we are dealing with OpenAI. So I'm just going to go ahead and provide OpenAI contributor role to our app registration to our Microsoft Entra ID so that we can have access to this particular model. So you can either pick user or contributor role based on your requirement. I'm just going to go ahead with the contributor for now. So instead of assigning access to any particular individual ID, I'm going to search for app which we have registered under Microsoft Entra ID. I could see this particular app. I'm just going to select it and click on review and assign. Now, if I want to check whether the access has been granted or not, I can just click on this check access. I can search for our Microsoft Entra ID, and then I could see we have got cognitive service OpenAI contributor. So this step is also done. So from Azure OpenAI perspective, we have deployed our model. We have created Microsoft Entra ID, and we have provided access to this Microsoft Entra ID so that it can access our Azure OpenAI models as well. So now everything has been done from Azure OpenAI perspective. Now we have to go to start spring.io and have to add certain dependencies. So first thing is going to be Azure OpenAI instead of just OpenAI. So we have to add this dependency. On top of that, there is going to be Spring Web for our endpoint. And we also have to add one more dependency, which is going to be Azure Identity. And this is going to be that dependency which we have to add it. We can also take it and put it under pom.xml. I couldn't find it over here in the available dependencies. So this particular dependency, we can add it later on. So you can just generate a project from here and import it into IntelliJ. And once you import it, your pom.xml should look like this. So we are going to have our Spring Web. We are going to have Azure OpenAI, and then you can just add it this Azure Identity dependency as well. Now this particular dependency is required because if you go to the documentation, we can connect with Microsoft Entra ID by creating this token credential bean. And when we are going to create this token credential bean, we have to access our client ID secret and the token which we have got it while registering our Microsoft Entra ID. And we are planning to utilize it under client secret credentials, and that is going to come from Azure Identity. So we will cover it in the code. So let's go to the code now and let's see how to utilize it. So first thing what we have to do is we have to configure a lot of things in our application.properties. So first thing is going to be this name. So these are not any standard name which I have taken it from the documentation. This is a custom property which I'm defining because we are going to just utilize all these values from here, then integrate it in the code manually. So let's go ahead and fill all this property. So here you can see we have to define our Azure OpenAI endpoint, and that we can get it from our portal very easily. So if you go to this Azure OpenAI, so under this Azure OpenAI, you could see we do have keys and endpoint. So we can take endpoint directly from here. We do have access to keys also. We can also utilize the keys, but in this particular video, our focus is not to use all these keys and generate a token from Microsoft Entra ID and then utilize it to access the model. So from here, only this particular endpoint section is important for us. So we can just take it, copy the value from here, and then put this one directly. Second thing is the deployment name. Now deployment name is something that we can get it from here. You could see under this Azure OpenAI Studio, once we deployed our model, it comes up with this deployment info, and here you are going to have a name. Now this name is different from your model name. In this case, like it's same because we haven't put any custom name over here, and you can have like any name for the deployment in this case, which could be different from the model name itself. In this case, our name are same. So we are just going to take it, this GPT-4 mini from here. We'll just go ahead in the property and we are just going to paste it over here. And the other thing what we have to do is just put the values in our client ID, tenant and secrets. This we are going to get it from our Microsoft Entra IDs. We have already saved our secret. So I'm just going to take it and paste it over here. Now we have to get a client ID and the tenant ID. We can go to Microsoft Entra ID and we can go to app registration. We can go to all application, click on this, and it's going to give us a client ID, which is going to be here. I'm just going to take it and paste it in this case. And then we are going to have a tenant ID. Tenant ID is over here, so I can just take it and paste it in this case. Now our properties has been defined. The next thing what we have to do is go to our config class. As per the documentation, we have to create a token credential bean. So we have created this token credential bean, and under this, then we are utilizing this client secret credential builder. You can easily find it as soon as you search for it. You can just see client secret credential builder, and under this we do have several properties. So we do have client secret, client ID, and the tenant ID. So same thing we are passing over here, and this client secret credentials builder is coming from this Azure Identity. If you don't have Azure Identity dependency in your pom.xml, you won't be able to leverage it. When we are defining the client secret credential, it basically looks for three values: the client ID, secret, and the tenant ID. This we have defined in our properties files, and that we can easily access it with this value annotation. Here you could see we are retrieving the value from the property properties file using the client ID, tenant ID, and secret. And that's why I said like we can pass any kind of custom name, because eventually we are going to manually wire all these values in our code. Once your token credential has been defined, the next thing what we have to do is define the OpenAI client builder and define the Azure OpenAI chat options. Now, why this is important? Because ultimately we are going to initialize this Azure OpenAI chat model, and if we have to initialize Azure OpenAI chat model, we have to pass the OpenAI client builder and we have to pass Azure OpenAI chat options. Now, once we pass the OpenAI client builder, we have to pass our token credentials. So this token credentials, we are already defining it in the form of bean, so we can pass it as a parameter, and on top of that we have to pass our endpoint. Now this again endpoint is something which we have been defining in our properties file, and we can retrieve it using the value annotation. You can see the endpoint, we are retrieving it over here as a string, and we can just pass this value in the endpoint. Now once OpenAI client builder has been defined, only one bean is required to be defined, and that is going to be Azure OpenAI chat options. Under this we have to pass our deployment name. Again, this deployment name is coming from our properties file, and as soon as all these three beans are defined, we can go ahead and define our Azure OpenAI chat model bean, and this Azure OpenAI chat model bean takes this OpenAI client builder and the Azure OpenAI chat options. We can just pass it as it is, and this would create your Azure OpenAI chat model. Once this is done, we can go to our controller class and create a simple endpoint. Our focus is just to make sure like we are getting a response from our chat model, and we are only going to get a response once all our configuration is in place, whatever we have done till now. In this particular controller, you can see our endpoint is going to be AI response. We are auto wiring our Azure OpenAI chat model, the bean which we have defined in our config class, and after that third we are just passing query, and that query we are passing as user message. This message is coming from our Spring AI framework only. At the last we are converting it into a string format. So let me just go ahead and try to run this code. Now our code is up and running, so I can go to my Postman, and we are just using this AI response. We do have a request param as a query, so I'm just going to say tell me a story in 20 words, and I will just click on the send button, and we are able to get a response. It took like 4 seconds to generate this response. It means all our configuration access is in place, and if you go to the console, you could see it's trying to generate a token. It's trying to find a token, and in this case you could see token not found in the cache. Then it's utilizing this client secret credentials, and then it was able to acquire the token, new access token, which it is using to generate a response for us. In this case, we haven't defined our model key anywhere. We are just passing this Microsoft Entra ID credentials, which is specifically generating a token, and using this token then we are accessing our model and getting a response. So this is how you can connect with Azure OpenAI model using token credentials without exposing your keys. That's all what we have in this video. Thank you for watching.